Coming up, more on the National American Indian Enterprise Development Center's biggest annual event. Plus, a native chef tells us about traditional foods. And we talk voting rights and legal battles with a Lakota lawyer. I'm Mackenzie Allen Charmley. Join us for those interviews from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Chinangale, we're so glad you could join us. The Reservation Economic Summit is the nation's largest and longest-running Indian country business trade show and conference. Sponsored by the National American Indian Enterprise Development Center, thousands attended the Las Vegas event. Prior to the start, ICT's Paris Wise interviewed Program Director Yvette Fielder.
Hi Yvette, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to be here kicking off RES with you. Can you give our viewers some context around RES and what it is?
Oh my gosh, so this is going to be the largest economic summit in Indian country, 2023. RES is the Reservation Economic Summit, and it assists Native American entrepreneurs, tribal enterprises, and other minorities, and really everybody to engage with each other, network. There's a lot of breakout sessions, trade show, the artisan market, and so much more at RES.
Last year, businesses were recovering from COVID. That was a big theme. Can you tell us about some themes that are going to be here this year?
Empowering for generations is our topic and our theme, our biggest theme. And there's just so much activity that goes on besides all the networking and the breakout sessions. We have the 40 Under 40 award ceremony. First time we have the Indigenous to Indigenous business matchmaking, besides the secondary matchmaking for everyone. But this is our first time with the Indigenous to Indigenous and including the Canadian delegates.
How many attendees are you expecting, and how far do people travel from?
People are traveling all over from the United States, Canada, New Zealand. It's gone international. We're expected to have 4,000 plus people here at RES.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role with the National Center?
So I work for the National Center. I'm a program director, and I assist various programs and Native Edge Institutes, our one-day trainings. And here at RES, I'm the RES TV host, co-hosting with Yvette Fielder and Mary Kim Titla, who is the executive director of Unity.
In program directing, how are events and topics and panels chosen for you guys to focus on this year?
Literally right after RES, we take a few days of a break, and then we're right back into RES planning for the next year. And so it's an accumulation of all of our work year-round that we come together for RES, because during the year, like I mentioned, we're doing our Native Edge Institutes, we're doing one-on-one technical assistance and training and business matchmakings all over the country in various cities and states.
What other initiatives are at the forefront for the National Center that we can look out for?
Intertribal commerce, and so we're really big at the initiative for Native entrepreneurs to start really marketing to, one, their communities, and then two, to all the other Native American communities. And so we just really want to bring everybody together, because small business owners, it's one, when they're really starting out, it's hard for them to get those first contracts. So share the love at home first, and then expand yourself to other Native communities. And likewise, we hope those Native communities have their processes in place so that they are looking for those Native-owned businesses so that we can support one another, not only in the United States, but we want to go global with this. And so our friends just north of us in Canada, we also want to include them and have our Native entrepreneurs get involved in exporting in international commerce to the Native communities in Canada. So we really want to build those relationships, because one way or another we are all related. We're at 6 degrees of separation, and no matter where you are, you can always find a friend or relative in Indian country. And so we really want our Native entrepreneurs to be able to tap into that to all the tribal communities, not only in the United States, but indigenous worldwide, really.
I'd love to hear in your own words why RES is so important.
RES is so important because it's the premier time to network, get to know each other, engage in business opportunities, learn and grow from one another, and that is really how people really can get their business going, is by learning from a mentor and finding out how they did something, even if they're not in the same industry. Just because if you're a general contractor, let's say you do heavy equipment, you can still learn from somebody who's done their marketing in another business like a coffee shop, you know, and how they get the word out. And so it's really important for everybody to share that information with one another, and that's what RES really does.
Can you tell us how programming has changed at RES over the years?
For RES over the years, I know we did a lot of focus on, of course, the startup businesses and government contracting. I think last year we started the fashion show, and that has really taken off for industries to get involved in Hollywood, in TV shows, Reservation Dogs, and all of those. We also have Tantu Cardinal joining us. She's a Canadian actress. She is sort of the Meryl Streep of Canada, and so she's going to be here at RES as well. And so RES has taken on, there's so many different ways that small business owners can get involved. So we have A to Z. So you have large prime contractors down to the small mom and pop, down to the industry of Hollywood, hair and makeup industry. I mean, it's just very large areas to cover for those conversations for all small businesses.
Well, Yvette Fielder, thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to all of the events you have planned this week.
That was Yvette Fielder. During RES's first day this year, Native people from all over the country packed the Conference on Economic Development. Here's what I took in. It's the nation's largest and longest-running Indian country business event. The 2023 Reservation Economic Summit kicked off its conference start at Caesar's Palace. Featuring tribal leaders, members of Congress, and top CEOs, RES offers unique access to high-caliber networking. The theme for RES this year is empowering for generations, and the summit intends to do just that.
We're really glad everybody's here. We're expecting a record number, close to 4,000, if not exceeding that, of participants. And it's about empowering.
For many in attendance, RES means opportunity for growth.
I'm here to meet a lot of people. I'm speaking, I believe, on 2 panels. One of them in particular is the SSBCI program, the State Small Business Credit Initiative with the U.S. Department of Treasury. And we're one of the tribes that has a larger allocation, so I'm here to kind of delve more into that and a lot of partnerships.
From panels and networking sessions to art and trade booths, economic prospects can be found in every room.
I love meeting people. I love engaging with people and talking with people, because without that, you know, you have nothing, right? You can't believe how many people I just talked to just standing in line, and how many people needed what I have to offer, right? It was just standing in line.
In the homelands of the Southern Paiute people in Las Vegas, Nevada, Mackenzie Allen Charnley, ICT News. And that was all the sights and sounds from the first day of RES 2023. When we come back, a Navajo chef talks about indigenous foods. Navajo chef and anthropologist Freddy Betsui was among the attendees at RES 2023 in Las Vegas. ICT's Shirley Snavy has this interview with him about what classifies as traditional or authentic Native foods.
Well, we've got a treat for you today, a culinary treat actually. We've got Freddy Betsui here with us. He's one of the Native chefs that's here at the RES conference. So welcome to the ICT Newscast.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, I think you're most known for your Smithsonian work. So what inspired you to be a chef?
Understanding the historical context of how Native people ate. I originally had majored in anthropology at the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, and I believed that there were people in prehistoric lives that who we deem as our ancestors. I view them as human, not just some type of story or people were. I view them as human. There was lazy people, there were hungry people, there were gossipers. Everything that we do today as far as our emotion, it was still pretty much, I think, was intact back then. So there had to have been two people who cooked and said, I cook better than you. And that notion, I think, has always been a part of human societal evolution. And by the time 2009 came around, I started my own consulting company, which I went to rural casinos, and then I would train people how to cut their food costs, be better cooks. Because unfortunately, in the food world, nobody says, I want to go to rural Minnesota and be a chef. Everybody wants to go to New York, or people want to go to California and be a chef. So I thought that if I could do these consulting gigs, it would empower the culinarians in their respective communities and casinos, and it worked. It was a really good gig. And then I started getting involved with my own casino, and I became the executive chef for the casino that's in Gallup. And I was only there for a year, and that's when Washington called. And apparently I had built my name so big from 2009 to 2015 that they called me for the job. Like, I wasn't even looking for the job. They just said, hey, you want to be the chef here? Which inadvertently was my dream job, so I didn't even have to think. And I managed to, it may not be a big move for non-culinarians or non-anthropologists, but what I did was I managed to get rid of the words traditional and authentic, because the museum, when we put something out that was authentic, I've always got into little scuffles with people, and they would say, wait, my grandmother didn't make it like this, so it's not authentic. It opened my eyes to the enormity of the culinary culture with different tribes and with different peoples throughout North America and Mexico. So that's where all my studies came from, and I continued to study working there, and it managed to open my eyes so much broader to the whole Native America food spectrum, and that's what inadvertently came out of my book, which is called New Native Kitchen, which you can get on Amazon. So that's kind of where everything's at now, and I'm collaborating with a lot more chefs now. That's why I'm here, because Don Sherman has been presenting, and we're planning on things together in the future, hopefully.
You've had an opportunity to work with tribes all over the country. I mean, what would be some of the things that you were surprised to learn about regional cuisine?
I think one thing that I was surprised to learn is how much people tend to think traditional food is, when it's really like post-reservation. And like for example, I believe that there's no point in putting any food down, but like there's a lot of spam involved, and they call it traditional food, which is fine. It's fine because it's been part of someone's emotion. It's been part of someone's walk in life and their families, and everything in that capacity. But prior to when all the tribes were relocated, and how, like for example, the example I use is the Delaware tribe was obviously living in the Delaware area because there's no Delaware in Oklahoma, right? So just imagine when you have abundance of food from the seas, the water, the bays, the woodlands, and then you're transferred to another place where there's absolutely nothing, so you have to adapt. Cooking with oil was not in our culture. And what I mean by that is putting oil on a pan and letting it get hot and then hearing that sizzle. Now, we did put fat in food, like wild boar lard into cornmeal. That's how we make tamales. So when we use those processes, yeah, we're cooking with oil or fat, but it's a different type of technique. So even as minute, small techniques as these cooking processes are, it just changes it completely, and that's exactly what happened. And trying to revitalize and talk about the history is one thing, but trying to convince grandma is a whole different task. So that's where I think a lot of the Native American and indigenous chefs are right now, just trying to convince people who have their heels dug in to not change is quite a task. The younger people are more adapting to it. I'm very surprised about that.
Well, Freddy Betsui, it's been just wonderful to meet you.
Well, thank you
very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
That was Freddy Betsui. When we come back, an Indigenous lawyer breaks down her work. Stay with us. Lawyer Nicole Additional, who led a panel on Native voting rights, is still in court fighting against the Dakota Access Pipeline. ICT's Shirley Snavy caught up with her.
Hi, I'm Shirley Snavy, and we're at the Res Conference, and I have the honor of interviewing Nicole Additional. She's an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe in South Dakota, and she works for Big Fire Law and Policy Center. And she hosted a panel yesterday on voting rights. I wanted to talk to you about that, so welcome.
Thank you, Shirley.
Tell us about the panel and what your goals were for having a panel on voting rights.
So voting rights is a really hot and important issue in Indian country right now, simply because there are deliberate attacks on the right of Native people to participate in state, municipal, and national elections. You know, we do have some reluctance in Indian country to get involved in politics, but it is so critically important to our own sovereignty. Who we elect in a state and national and even a local election has a huge impact on tribes. And, you know, we see it on a broad level. You know, unfortunately, we elected Donald Trump. And the composition of the U.S. Supreme Court changed, and an already anti-Indian court has become incredibly hostile to Indians. And that is a direct result of that national vote. And so what we see out in the localities is that these, you know, local voting officials and local governments are using insidious tactics to make it harder for Native people to vote. And that's a signal that they're scared of our power.
I'm often surprised to hear how many Natives don't vote. And they don't vote because they don't think it has anything to do with them, that their vote isn't going to make a difference. And I think even in Nebraska, with the 4 tribes there, you know, there could be some issues where our voices in Nebraska, you know, I'm Ponca tribe in Nebraska, you know, that it could make a difference. And just to be able to see the world from a different lens, so to speak, of the Native vote.
Yeah, it is disappointing to see that, and we really need a grassroots effort on the ground. I am really lucky to have a relative in my life, my now deceased great aunt Lucille Otter, who was a member of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, and she was famous for getting out the vote on the Flathead Reservation, and still to this day people will remember her. Oh, Lucille was your aunt. Oh God, she used to come to my house and just badger me about voting, and I used to hate it, but you know, now when I go to vote, I always think of her. And we need Aunt Lucille's out there in Indian country, you know, because you know, people of that generation understood what it was like to not have any power, and how lucky we are today to have the right to vote and to have you know, power in our tribal governments. So I really am happy when I see our grassroots efforts getting out the Native vote, because it is so incredibly important.
This conference is bringing together a wide variety of people, mostly that are interested in economic development from a tribal or an independent point of view. And this is a year that we're taking a look at the Farm Bill. Should Natives care about the Farm Bill?
Absolutely. The Farm Bill is so critically important. Agriculture is absolutely the most natural industry for tribes. Although many of us are poor, a lot of our tribes are rich in land. And agricultural industry is part of our cultural history as well. Animal husbandry and cultivating the land, and the opportunities that the U.S. Department of Agriculture offers for funding and grants and programs are so critical to Indian country, and there's a lot of untapped resources. And that my firm Big Fire has started an agriculture practice group that I think is unique in Indian country, where we are working to help tribes like update their tribal codes for grazing and for various things that help make agriculture work in a tribal community. And then also to advocate for tribes to take advantage of grant funding coming out of the Keeps Eagle settlement and programs in the Farm Bill, programs in the USDA. And now is absolutely the time, because the U.S. Department of Agriculture has more advocates for Indian country than we've ever had before. The General Counsel is Janie Hipp, an Indian from Oklahoma. The administrator of the Farm Service Administration is my cousin Zach Ducheneau. We've got Heather Dawn Thompson running the tribal program in there, and they've all put together excellent teams, and they understand our needs.
And the Dakota Access Pipeline, your firm has been involved in that in the past, and
Yes, that's right. So I was just absolutely honored to represent my own tribe, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, in the Dakota Access Pipeline litigation, which unbelievably started 7 years ago in 2016. And although we do have a pipeline under our sacred Minnesota, Missouri River, the tribal plaintiffs in that case won almost every step of the way on the law. And what we were always seeking was a full environmental impact statement. And in 2019 and 2020, that's exactly what the district court ruled. And so we've been in that environmental impact statement process ever since. And tribes have been participating and challenging the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on their cozy relationship with the oil company. And so what tribes are doing now is making the record, because we will sue again. We're Sioux Indians, that's what we do. But, that was such a highly visible case in Indian country because we had such an amazing turnout from the world and from Indian activists, and it's been off the radar. But we are still fighting for our sacred river and our sacred Mini, our sacred water. And we're still getting pushback from the federal government, so they better watch out, because we'll come for them again.
Nikki Ducheneau from Big Fire Law Firm, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Shirley.
That was lawyer Nicole Additional. Anytime you gather large groups of Native people, sovereignty always seems to be a topic of conversation. I asked conference attendees about it. Let's take a look. What is tribal sovereignty? Thousands are gathered here at Res, hoping to empower for generations. But what exactly does tribal sovereignty mean?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of answers.
Tribal sovereignty to me is the ability for our communities to live out the way that we were meant to live out, the way that our ancestors fought for us to be here. And that is to have that sovereignty of ourselves, the sovereignty of our people, that self-governance piece.
For some, it's about recognition on a large scale.
Having the ability to just do business with the government, and I don't have to have a permission every time I go into a business deal.
Tribal sovereignty, to me, it's so important. It's the ability of tribes and Indian people to be able to make their own laws and to exercise our own flex our own laws. We as Indian tribes, we pre-existed the United States, and so I think it's so important that we understand we're not parties to the Constitution because we were,
For others, it's about tradition.
Tribal sovereignty to me means that I have a responsibility to my ancestors to do better in the current communities and climates that we're living in. And so for me to operate in this typical non-native space is to enforce my voice and really express the trials and tribulations that our people have been through.
To live our own way our own lives without any interference from churches or state governments or federal governments or anyone trying to push agendas or different educations that go against our connection to the earth, the waters, the natural way of life.
Almost all we spoke to here say tribal sovereignty is about uplifting and supporting each other.
To me, tribal sovereignty means that we take care of our own.
We're, I think, writing history right now about what tribal sovereignty can look like in contemporary times and what tribes are capable of when we are the authors of our own narrative.
In Las Vegas, Nevada, on the homelands of the Southern Paiute people, Mackenzie Allen Charmley, ICT News. Thanks for joining us for a look back at the 2023 Reservation Economic Summit. That's just a slice of our Indigenous world, but for all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.